Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest is Ukraine's Energy Minister, German Galushchenko. He is with us from Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister.
Yeah, hello.
The last few days, we've seen unprecedented number of Russian strikes, missiles, drones, especially on Kiev, where you're speaking from, but across Ukraine. This, as there were recent direct talks between Ukraine and Russia, there's supposed to be a ceasefire. It seems now the war is back in full swing.
In fact, yes, the recent days you see, and that is probably the more biggest attacks which we had from the beginning of full-scale invasion. And they used each night something around 300 drones and 70 or up to 100 missiles. So it's really the more difficult attacks which we could see, and the consequences of that they are attacking the civilians, they're attacking the peaceful cities, and the main goal of these attacks just to kill Ukrainians and civilian Ukrainians. And that is the same when they are attacking the energy infrastructure, because the energy is really supposed to provide electricity and heat to the people. And one goal, and the main goal of these attacks, is to make Ukrainians suffer.
Have there been strikes lately on the energy infrastructure? I just want to remind our viewers that there is supposed to be a ceasefire on energy infrastructure since late March.
Yes, it was the date of 18th of March, which was declared the ceasefire to the energy infrastructure. But just to say that from that date, we already had something around 30 attacks to the energy. That is not a massive attacks, but that is a targeted. They target intentionally the energy infrastructure in a number of cities like Kherson, Odessa, Kharkiv, and the consequences of the massive attacks which we mentioned the recent days is that when these drones or missiles falling down, they also destroy the energy infrastructure. They destroy the lines. They destroy the auto transformer substation. So that's why it's also have the direct impact on the energy.
Right. The U.S. President Donald Trump declared, he criticized for one of the first time Vladimir Putin, saying he's killing a lot of people. He is, quote unquote, absolutely crazy. He also criticized President Zelensky for speaking too much. Do you think that there is now slowly, maybe too slowly for Ukraine, realization in the White House that Vladimir Putin is maybe not telling them the truth?
I think that is obvious that they are not, at least at this stage, looking for any peace solutions, because you could see the recent days, these attacks, and what is happening on the battlefield is also so that is really an every day and every night is battle is continued. And what is really important to understand that they are not really looking for peace. And from what we see, that is very important really now to think about how we could react on that. I mean, the Europe, United States together, and that is, I think that is very important, that this reaction should be very fast and should be strong. I mean, against Russia, to push them at least to start the real talks about the peace and the real talks about the ceasefire. And I think that the sanctions is really one of the most important tool here, which could be used like immediately to get Russians at least to push them to start negotiations, real negotiations on peace.
Right. I mean, the sanctions have been mentioned repeatedly by President Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials, especially on the Russian energy sector. Do you think Europe and the US have been too cautious or too afraid of Russia to really slap sanctions, and that now is the time to do it?
I'm absolutely sure about this, that now it's time to do it. And I can tell you that I think that the conditions now is ready for that. So if we compare to 22, when the Europe had a huge dependence on, for instance, Russian gas, like 45%, or totally demand of Russian coal, and now or oil. So the conditions now is absolutely different from 22. So there is a lot of done to many countries just to stop this dependence on Russia, and this recent roadmap, which was announced by EU Energy Commissioner about that the goal to stop dependence on Russian energy completely by 27. So I think that is a great decision. But the question is that we have to move fast, because each day you could see they're killing Ukrainians, civilian Ukrainians, and they are not supposed to stop. And the time in which we would be ready to provide these sanctions is really crucial. So that's why the next package, where there is discussions about the cap for oil price and the Russian banks. I think it's very important not to stop. So we have to, and at least the Europe have to implement these sanctions as fast as it's possible.
Right. Do you think Vladimir Putin's strategy now is to really push militarily to try to negotiate and be able to retain Crimea and part of the Donbass, because he knows that President Trump is himself in favor of such a partition of Ukraine?
I think that they would push, and that is what is happening now. So at the battlefield, that is what is happening during these attacks to the peaceful cities, and the one answer to that should be a strong actions from Europe, from United States, in line of imposing new sanctions on Russia. Otherwise, they would try to continue and would continue the war.
I want to get to the issue of nuclear safety. Obviously, Ukraine has on its soil the largest nuclear power plant, Zaporizhzhia. It has been controlled by Russia since 2022. Given the attacks that we're witnessing right now, how concerned are you about the safety of this plant that is not operating right now, but we know there's problem to get water, to get electricity?
And that is really a challenge, not only for Zaporizhzhia and PP, because we also have operational nuclear power plants on Ukrainian controlled territory. Concerning the Zaporizhzhia, of course, it's really a challenge, because it's really more than 3 years is already occupied, and despite a number of resolutions which was adopted at the General Conference, EIEA, or the Board of Governors, which are very strict, that the Russians should withdraw their troops immediately from the site, so nothing has happened on that. But the problem that the station, when we are talking about Zaporizhzhia and PP, was already 8 times in blackout. So and that is really a threat to nuclear safety and security, even if it's not operational, because the nuclear material is still there, and Ukraine supply electricity for maintenance of security system on the site from our side. But we have only 2 lines, and from time to time, due to the attacks, the Russians destroy 1 line. So and that is really a threat. And I mentioned already 8 times blackout of Zaporizhzhia and PP. The same story with the nuclear stations on Ukraine controlled territory. During this massive attacks to the energy infrastructure, a number of times we have emergency shutdown of nuclear units, which is also quite a challenging situation when the station is without external supply of electricity. And that is really unfortunately to say, but that is one step before the nuclear accident. That is pure Fukushima scenario.
Right. Obviously, Donald Trump has offered joint U.S.-Ukraine ownership of the plant. Russia said, no way, this is Russian property. Is this a proposal that could fly? Or do you say, no, this is Ukraine's nuclear plant, Ukraine's energy, there's no way we could share it with Russia.
I think that it's very important to come back to the international rules, international principles. So if we are talking about the main pillars of nuclear safety and security, so it means that if the world would allow Russians to capture the nuclear power plant, and by the way, the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, and continue holding this and occupy this nuclear power plant, I think that is a great challenge for the whole world, no matter whether it's Europe or some other parts of the world, because now we are talking about the nuclear renaissance in the world. And we could remind the COP28 declaration on the tripling nuclear until 2050. Without that, we want any possibilities to achieve the green transition goals. So, and if it would happen and the situation would stay as it is with Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, I think it's a huge challenge for the world to invest in nuclear industry in the future, because it means that one country could just illegally capture the nuclear power plant and just continue be there. So it's really a challenge for the future development of nuclear industry in the world. And no matter, I mean, we could discuss any form of let's say cooperation even with the United States when we are talking about the future operation of nuclear power plant. But the fact that that is Ukrainian nuclear power plant, and it should be immediately would be back to Ukraine, and we are responsible for nuclear safety and security on this site. So, and I think we cannot allow to change these international standards, international rules in nuclear safety security, because if we will do this once, so it means that the whole system would be destroyed.
German Galushchenko, I want to thank you very much for being our guest from Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, and thank you all for watching this show.